Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And today we are back talking about the summer box office. We did our predictions in June and it was really fun. And now we are here to see who was the most prophetic of their predictions. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Dan and Joe are here. This is so fun. Thank you both for coming back on.
No, thank you for having us back on.
Yes. So, did y'all have good summers?
Yeah, really good. Went really quickly.
Yes.
So yeah, it is crazy to think that with at the end of August and autumn's around the corner, and yeah, it's just gone way too quick. And I mean, what a movie season! And I think just to kick it off, I mean, how wrong was I? I think I was. I should never predict anything. In fact, I was the first person when Joe and I did a show right at the start of COVID. So it was like the middle of March time. And I said, oh, this will blow over. It'll be, I'd say, about a month and we'll be back to normal. And that's how, everything I predict goes horribly wrong. And that's the case for this list because I was completely wrong.
I'm even worse than you on that though, Dan, because I remember when our local theater announced that it could be 2 to 6 weeks. And I was like, 6 weeks? No way. Yeah, right.
Yeah. They were definitely being generous.
Yeah. What? Yes. So yes, Joe is the big winner. I mean, we won't bury the lead. I mean, you nailed it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't have my list at hand, so I can't remember the full 10. But I remember having a strong feeling about Top Gun Maverick, just because of the word of mouth which was coming out around that time. And yeah, to just see it take off as much as it has, it's been fantastic. And yeah, interesting summer overall. I think in terms of the films we've had, it's felt very strange. I think it's been interesting having films play longer in cinemas. I think Dan's always said in terms of the changes like post-COVID, this whole like the bigger films now stay in cinemas longer because a lot of the smaller films, and Dan and I were used to going to see about 4 films on an average Friday night maybe in the past. Nowadays you're lucky to get like 2 big releases on a Friday night in the UK at least.
That's true.
So it's very interesting because I mean I saw Elvis I think about 2 months after the release date, which is very unlike me, but I was on holiday and everything like that. And the amount of showings Elvis was still getting 2 months after its release date was incredible. Yeah. And I just think definitely feels like the bigger films are getting the most play now in cinemas, and the smaller sort of indie hits are in and out in a heartbeat, really.
Yeah, I mean, it depends a little bit. Like the Everything Everywhere All at Once, it lasted a long time. Mm-hmm. And even I think is getting another release my favorite movie of the summer. They tried with it, but it didn't get enough seats to be certainly on the top 10. But I loved Marcel the Shell with shoes on was my favorite.
Wait. It wasn't Minions, Rise of Gru?
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
That was a shoo-in. I thought that was a shoo-in.
Yes. Yeah. Did you guys get to see this, Marcel the Shell?
No, I don't think it's released yet.
No UK release date for Marcel yet. But he sounds wonderful. He sounds very French, maybe. Marcel? No. I've heard really good things about it, so I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
I loved it. I thought it was really good. So people should definitely keep an eye on that. But let's dive in. Let's talk. We'll go over the actual top 10. We'll talk about where we had and what we think about them. But yeah, I was reading that Top Gun Maverick might be number 1 this weekend again. So that would mean that it started the summer at number 1 and ended the summer at number 1, which is wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Tom Cruise effect, I think it is. I think you could call it.
But definitely. Number 10 of the summer, according to Box Office Mojo, this is domestic for the summer because they don't actually have the summer numbers for worldwide on Box Office Mojo, and I wasn't able to find it anywhere else. But so number 10 is Where the Crawdads Sing, which made over $100 million. And I went with Downton Abbey as my female film pick, but I should have gone with Where the Crawdads Sing. And I should have known because it was a very popular novel. You know, it was a big book club pick. So there were probably a lot of women who all went kind of what I was thinking would happen with Downton Abbey, ended up happening with Where the Crawdads Sing. I enjoyed the film. I gave it a fresh. It had a lot of atmosphere, good lead performance. The romance is kind of not the best. The love triangle. I think they weren't able to capture the interesting characters of the men in the book. They made them kind of more bland, leading guys. But I thought it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't great, but it was all right.
Yeah. I don't think this was even on my list where the Crawdads Sing. And yeah, I thought exactly the same. I thought it was fine, to be honest. I thought I do love, you know, the drama. I love a little bit of drama. And there's a moment in the film where his sort of main love interest returns after like doing the dirty on her and like abandoning her for years. Yeah. And I did do a like looked around at the
no,
crowd
she
going,
didn't.
I was like, this is getting juicy.
Well, and they made in the movie, they made Chase more relatable, I guess. He's definitely more of an outright villain in the book. And in this, they tried to kind of, I felt like they tried to make it more of a love triangle, which it really isn't in the book.
Okay, interesting. Well, I've not read the book. But Dan, you weren't a massive fan of this.
No, and actually it's a real surprise because I do love those kind of Nicholas Sparks-esque romance novels. I'm a massive fan of those. So I did think I was going to enjoy this, in particular the love triangle. But you're right, Rachel. I think there's just no charisma. There's no from the cast. I felt like Daisy Edgar Jones, who leads this film, she was excellent, but I felt like the two other guys just were very, very flat. And I felt like the film just lacked direction for me. I think it struggled to decide what it wanted to be. I know friends who've read the novel who are very pleased with this adaptation, who say that it really captures the novel well. But for me, it struggled between this kind of court case drama, which I thought was quite interesting, and then I think it wanted to kind of be a murder mystery thriller, and that didn't go so far. And then you've also got this kind of love triangle, and I think it's commenting on kind of the politics of the time period in which it's set. So yeah, I thought it was fine. I didn't hate it. It was very long and it felt very long for me, but it's so good to have a film from Sony, which I don't think anybody thought was going to do very well, produced by Reese Witherspoon. It's great to see it at number 10. It really is, because I would not have predicted this to be in the top 10 at all.
Yeah, I think they could have used a lot more of the courtroom and less of the Jason Tate drama. And there is more of it in the book. So I don't know if I would say this was a good adaptation of this book, but it captures the feeling. And I think they did capture Kaya really well, the lead character. They did a good job with that. But yeah, I was glad to see that a movie directed towards women did so well, because I think that Hollywood could learn that lesson and make more movies for women. But yeah, it felt, I said in my review that it kind of felt like a longer Lifetime movie, which that's, I don't know if that means anything to both of you, but Lifetime makes kind of like thrillers, kind of cheesy, fun, over the top thrillers.
Yeah.
So that's a thing too.
Yeah, it would probably be our equivalent of a Channel 5 afternoon movie. We've spoken about this before. Definitely a Channel 5 3 p.m. afternoon called like Deadly Dangerous Love or something like that.
Like Killer Cheerleader Mom or something like that.
Yeah.
So the one that all of us had on our list that did not make the top 10 is Bullet Train.
Oh, wow, it didn't make the top 10.
Yeah.
Wasn't aware of that. Wow.
Now, I mean, it could still have some legs in it, possibly. Let's see where it's at. It's at number 11. And it's it's at 78 million, where the Crawdads thing is at 81. So it's possible it could. But yeah, it's at 11.
And it had such a great slot. It had such a great release date, the start of August, summer season. It had no competition, especially here in the UK. I think Nope came out the week later, but it had no competition. And I remember going to watch it, and they hired out all the IMAX screens, all the kind of 4DX super screens for it. And I remember going in to see it in IMAX, and there was nobody there who turned up. Which I was shocked by. And I think people are talking now about Brad Pitt and about whether he is as a movie star a good catch for people. And I love Brad Pitt. I think he's great, and I liked him in this a lot. But yeah, maybe kind of fell below Sony's expectations. But I think Sony have done really well this summer. I really do. I think Sony, for me, throughout the pandemic, have been very fair. They've kind of delayed a lot of films. They've kept a lot of films back, and I think Bullet Train has done well. I don't think it's done probably as well as they had hoped, but yeah. I mean, who knows? It might come into top 10, but yeah.
I don't. I'd be shocked if it did, to be honest. I mean, I thought it was fine, but I've heard rumblings of a lot of people walking out of screens on Twitter. I saw a guy tweet saying that 4 people walked out of his screen. My mum went to watch it, and that was quite funny because she thought it was like a Murder on the Orient Express type movie. Totally not that movie. She said 4 people walked out of her screen. So
Really?
I'm hearing rumblings of like a lot of people walking out. And I don't know why that is, because I think it is exactly what it has been marketed as. I think going in, I knew exactly what to expect. So I don't know if it's because people are going in and thinking, oh, this is maybe more violent than I thought or whatever. But yeah, a lot of walkout. So I would probably say it has the level of enthusiasm for it has probably petered out to the point where the Crawdads sing is probably a safe bet of keeping that spot. But I thought
it cost 90 million to make. It's made 173. So I would say that probably is a disappointment. I think they probably wanted it to do better. I didn't love it. It was too stupid for me. I mean, just the absolute ludicrous scenes, like when he jumps on top of the moving bullet train and like then crashes through this thick pane of glass, and then he's somehow able to pilot the train. And I mean, I don't know. It was just too stupid for me.
No, I 100% get that, and too long as well. I feel like it definitely could have been done with quarter of an hour, sort of skimmed off of the top of it. A little bit,
I think they could have cut out Joey King's character completely.
Oh yes. Oh, thank Rachel. Thank goodness. Cheers to that. Oh, I don't know what it is. I can't stand the girl. I really can't. And she does this British accent here, and it's awful. And she's just cringeworthy. Like, I really don't like her as an actress. I really think she needs to stay on Netflix and do like a Kissing Booth 4 or whatever she's done.
Damn.
I really do. And I mean, no spoilers, but she is in a lot of the film. Okay. I did think, maybe she'll have a quick cameo and get killed off, but no, she's in a lot of it. And she's talented, I guess, but I'm not a fan of her at all. And I agree. I think Joey King needs to be dethroned. I think that's what I'm going to say.
Well, I mean, and everybody should have died multiple times within this movie.
Yeah,
many times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. So I guess it's just how much you can suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did see it in 4DX, which is like the theme park, made it a sort of theme park ride, bumping and the smoke and stuff. And I think that definitely maybe made the experience a little bit more enjoyable. But yeah, it was just one of those films which, again, sort of forgot about instantly. As soon as I left the screen, it was like, do you enjoy that? Yeah. And then moved on with my life.
I've only seen one movie in my life in the D box. That's what we call it here, D box. It was the second Maze Runner movie. And I hated it so much. Like, never again will I ever sit in those D box.
I love that. I prefer that. D box is definitely better than 4DX.
Sounds much cooler, doesn't it?
It does. D box.
Hey, dude, I'm just gonna go D box over here.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So I had Bullet Train at 10. Dan had it at 9, and Joe had it at 10. So we weren't that far off because it was at 11.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9 was The Black Phone, which Dan, you had it 10, and Joe had it 8.
Okay.
So we were pretty close. You were pretty close. I did not have it anywhere.
Yeah.
But surprise, I actually saw it because I'm not that big of a horror person, and I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. Yeah. It was very tense. It kind of reminded me of 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is a thriller favorite of mine. That whole thing with somebody trying to get out of the house and everything. I thought the 2 kids were really good. I thought that Ethan Hawke was creepy. And I thought it worked. I enjoyed it. I liked the whole aesthetic, 70s aesthetic.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely had kind of, like you said, a very 70s retro, and reminded me a lot of Stephen King. And it's a lot of the time. Yeah, well, there we are. Thank you. Yeah, you're right. I love the aesthetic, and Ethan Hawke was absolutely terrifying. He gave me chills. And you're right, it was a really kind of smart, chilling, disturbing kind of horror thriller. And it's great to see that. I think horror films in general are coming back to the theaters. It is the best place to watch it. I could not imagine watching The Black Phone at home. I'm really glad I watched it in the theater. And it was a great atmosphere there. Everyone was really, really tense and scared. And you're right. And I think it isn't like a nasty, gruesome horror film at all. It has substance to it. I think it's trying to say something. And yeah, just had a ton of fun with it. I thought Ethan Hawke was just, I mean, if there's an Oscar for horror, for horror, then he's gonna have to get it. He was terrifying.
I heard somebody saying that they thought that his voice isn't like creepy enough. Like they're used to him playing like more positive characters. But to me, that actually made it more creepy to have than if it had been somebody like, I don't know, who plays a lot of villains like Michael Shannon or somebody like that. Like, to me, it made it more creepy that here's this voice that we know and love, but he's obviously creepy. So I don't know.
Yeah. Very evil. Yeah. But yeah, this was probably one of my I really enjoyed it off the bat, but I still felt a little bit disappointed about this because I think the marketing for this film was really pushing that this was going to be a big deal. And I thought that, it's one of those things we're going to be talking about with Top Gun. Word of mouth is such a massive thing with cinema audiences these days, especially. And I think they were really hoping that, by marketing it as, the next terrifying chapter of horror and making out there was going to be, groundbreaking, they sort of put a rod off their own back, because when I saw it, I was like, this is great, but perfectly average at the same time. There's nothing new here. There's nothing which I think audiences are going to be raving about. My girlfriend's mother fell asleep, and I left, and I thought that was really enjoyable, but I felt really sort of let down that it wasn't what the marketing was basically pushing for, and I think that's perhaps why it hasn't done as well as it has, because the word of mouth wasn't quite at that level that the studios were hoping that it would be at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a base hit. It wasn't something, that I'll be talking about and I'm sure we're gonna get a million sequels, Black Phone 2, 3, 4, and 5. But
as long as you don't call it the white phone, please don't do that. For goodness sake. Please don't do that.
But it made a lot of money. I mean, as far as profit, because it cost 18 million and it made 157.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a massive hit. Yeah, definitely. Money wise, that is crazy. So no doubt then we will get more, a prequel, a sequel, a reimagining, a multiverse.
Yeah, what was the name of the Grabber? We're gonna get a movie, The Grabber.
Yes.
The prequel about his origin story.
Yeah, 100%. They will milk that as much as they can now. 100%.
Yeah, his like being abused as a kid and him turning into the Grabber.
Yeah, yeah. Halloween, summer in 2024.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, they are announcing a 10th Saw film, so I mean, they've got plenty more to come of this.
Yes, absolutely. Anything is possible.
Yes. All right. Well, number 8 was Nope. Jordan Peele's Nope was number 8 at the box office, and it made 117 million domestic. And I actually didn't. I should have looked up how much Us and Get Out made. I think it's the lowest performing of Jordan Peele's.
Wow.
I mean,
yeah.
let's see here.
I've heard that too, that it has. Obviously Get Out was kind of this sensation, and Get Out did really, really well. But yeah, I think it is lowest performing so far, domestic and international. But yeah, Joe and I disagree on this film. It was quite interesting, so we went to see it together, not in kind of IMAX, so we watched it in 2D. And we both walked out, and I didn't know what Joe. Sometimes we see films and we know instantly what we both thought throughout the film. Normally, either of us groan or moan or kind of laugh. If it's a really bad film, we're not supposed to laugh. We laugh a lot, and we kind of know walking out. We turn to each other, we go, "Oh, that wasn't very good." We walked out of this, and I was like really nervous. I said, "So what do you think?" And Joe said, "Well, it's not a 5-star." And I thought, "Oh no." I thought, "Oh no." Yeah, I did not care for this at all. I'm trying to give it a second viewing. Firstly, I think it looks stunning. The IMAX cameras that Jordan Peele has used look brilliant. The cinematography is excellent. The film is a lot about the external shots. It's all about the sky and these kind of aliens that are coming down. That looks great. I just think for me, Get Out and Us was so unique because they had such great subtext. They were about something. They were giving big statements about kind of the political and social period of that time. It was so clever how he was able to symbolize different things for those films, and also just kind of incredibly creepy and tense, and just how it built mood and atmosphere. Both those films were just excellent. I just didn't get it here with Nope at all. I thought there were some really dull parts to it. There's a lot of flashbacks. There's a lot of unexplained answers that Jordan Peele wants us to go back and get kind of our books out and read about. And I do believe that sometimes with very complex narratives, you do have to go and do your research and read afterwards. But I don't think it has to depend on your enjoyment of the film that you have to do those things at all. I think you can do that as extra, but I think it's got to be clear from the film what he's trying to say. But I don't know. I didn't care for this, but I know Joe liked it.
Yeah, I'd like.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh. So yeah, I liked it. I've seen it twice now. I have seen it twice, and I needed that second viewing to get my head wrapped around it a little bit more and to dig down a bit deeper into certain aspects, because he is one of those filmmakers who I love, and I've given his last 2 films the full 5 stars. So when you have those expectations going in, you can always feel a little bit disappointed. So I think a second viewing is always key in those situations, because there were certain aspects which left me feeling cold. I agree, Dan. I think it's his probably most visually stunning film that he's made so far. But there were certain aspects that I missed. The social commentary, it is there, but it's more. I think it's hidden a little bit deeper. I've had to go out and read a lot of articles and get various people's, film critics I love, their articles about it, and and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. But yeah, it did leave me cold in certain aspects. But a second viewing did definitely improve things without those, massive expectations of it. But I thought it was fine. It's a shame that it's not done as well as the other 2. But again, maybe that's a word of mouth thing, because Get Out and Us had just, people talking, and I haven't heard a lot of people talking about Nope.
Yeah. So for me, I didn't care for it. I mean, I agree that the cinematography is great. It looks great, good performances. but I just found it really muddled, and I didn't see what the point of Steven Yeun's whole character was in the story. It, it was weird to me that people kept describing it as a modern day Jaws, and I'm just like, what? I don't get that at all. Like, just because it has some kind of creature, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, the whole town is against them stopping the clearing the beach and everything in Jaws. In this, they are literally spectators waiting for this all to happen. They're signed up for his show. So I don't understand what he's really trying to say there. And I did not get, like, again, Steven Yeun's whole character, just, I was like, what does this even mean? I don't understand the whole thing with the monkey and the or gorilla or whatever. I don't understand it. And I just felt like the script was just not there.
Mm.
Like, you can have pretty visuals all you want, but if the script isn't good, then
yeah, and you're right, the performances are great as well. But yeah, it's a shit. It always worries me when things like this happen, because I loved M. Night Shyamalan's first couple of films, and then we all saw where his career went. So it always worries me when such a fantastic filmmaker has a blip like this.
I was gonna say that I do feel like this is Jordan Peele's The Village.
Yes.
Oh no.
Exactly.
A lot of ideas in there. Looks great, beautifully made, but a mess.
And then all of a sudden, The Last Airbender comes out of nowhere.
I know. Yeah, let's hope not. Let's hope
No.
not.
Next up is The Happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh boy.
I know.
Yeah.
God help us all.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that he's still making in original films, but I think he needed to have someone have a pass at this script. It just wasn't there, in my opinion. 100%. So we all had this on our list. I had it at 7, Dan had it at 7, and Joe had it at 6. So I know it was at 8.
So, yeah, very disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night, or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. Number 7, this was a big surprise, I think, is Lightyear was number 7.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Massive surprise.
I was the closest. I had it at 6 in my prediction, and Dan, you had it at 4, and Joe had it at 5.
Wow.
They did a terrible job marketing this film. I don't know if it was possible to market it right. It was such a weird project. I actually ended up thinking it was pretty fun, but I think low expectations probably helped.
Yeah.
But I thought it worked as a space movie more than it worked as a Toy Story universe movie. I mean, that was just distracting to me. Every time it would kind of wink at that, it was just distracting. I remember I talked at Christmas Con, I was talking with a bunch of my friends who aren't movie people, and they were like, what is this? Why didn't they just make a movie about Buzz? And I'm like, it is about Buzz, but a different Buzz. And they were like, what? And so it was just a bad idea.
I get. Go on, Joe.
No, go on.
Okay. I think, again, Joe and I disagree on this. I've seen this film 3 times now, so I saw it quite. Yeah, I'll die on the Lightyear hill right now. Okay, guys. I saw it twice in theaters, and I saw it once on Disney Plus. And I think you're right, Rachel. The marketing of this was terrible. It just, again, not the amount of marketing, it was the kind of what they showed you in the trailers was very strange. This film is a tale of two films. The first half is, like you said, it's more about the space station. It's a bit more serious, much more emotional, really tugged at my heartstrings. And there's a sequence in it, I'm not going to spoil, where Buzz is trying to kind of get to hyperspeed. And every time he comes back, time has moved on. And that, for me, I cried. Which Pixar always does to me. Every Pixar film, I always cry. Whether I love the film or not, I cry. And I cried all three times. I might have just tears coming down. It's a really effective sequence. And then the second half of the film is a lot more lighthearted. It's a lot more fun, more family friendly. And then for me, the two halves, they don't contrast very well together. It does feel very different. But I really like this a lot. I think majority critics, enjoyed it. It's performed really badly. I don't know whether it was the competition. I don't know whether it's the audiences maybe were put off from it. I'm not sure. But when I went to see it in the theaters, there were loads of children just not engaged with it. They were really not interested in it. They were up from their seat. They were going to the toilet a lot. There's a whole thing, isn't there, about the LGBTQ kind of little scene in there, which I think is so silly because it's such a small part of the film, and I think it adds a lot to it, and I think it's I just saw it as it's a really sweet moment. So I hope it's not because of that. I don't think it is, but yeah, I think this is a bit of a disaster for Pixar. I'm really disappointed.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because not only was this the first one to be allowed back into the theaters in a long time, but also that, then people, because the idea was bad and there were many other reasons why it didn't succeed, but people are using its lack of success as a proof that, people were boycotting it or whatever, which I think is bogus. I think if it had been Toy Story 5 and had that exact same scene somehow in there, it would have made $1 billion.
Yeah, one definitely. I couldn't agree more. And I think for me, perhaps it's this whole thing that audiences have gotten used to that quick turnaround now with Disney Plus. I mean, Thor: Love and Thunder is on Disney Plus, I think, next week. We're getting these fast turnarounds now. And I think if you've already got that subscription to Disney Plus, and you know that Lightyear is going to be on in probably a month's time under that subscription, and you've got the option of either doing that or going to the movies and paying £50 for a family ticket, I think some people will make that decision and go, well, it'll be on streaming in a month's time anyway. So I think that could be a possibility. And yeah, I mean, I didn't like this at all. You're absolutely right. It's just such a weird project. And I wonder at what point the filmmakers decided to put the text right at the beginning of the film where they literally explain the concept of like, this is the movie which Andy saw. And I'm like, if you've got to do that, then perhaps it's not really working, this whole idea that you have.
Well, and it doesn't really make sense because Andy, so supposedly the Buzz that we know and love was based on the television show that was inspired, the animated television show that was inspired by the movie, like the Ghostbusters television show. That's what the director said. So, okay. So if that's true, then you have to have enough time for the Andy, I think turns 9, in the original Toy Story. So you have to have enough time for there to be the movie plus the television show, plus them making the doll, plus Andy getting it for his birthday. And so supposedly that makes, he was like 6 or 7. And does it makes any sense that he would like this movie when he's 6?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting, Dan, that you said, kids weren't really engaging with it. And I think it's a perfectly fine, maybe animated movie for, certain ages. But I think younger audiences, I don't blame them for not engaging with it. I found it quite dull, to be honest. And if I were, for a 6-year-old child, especially as some of the plot twists start to happen. I mean, that whole plot twist with Zurg, I mean, come on, it wasn't needed. You have a villain, a Darth Vader style villain. You don't need to go any further than that, really. And I think, I was watching it thinking, who is this aimed for? And I could imagine.
And by canon, Zurg is supposed to be Buzz's father.
Yes.
Remember Toy Story 2?
Exactly. Yeah. So it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, and I just found it dull. Visuals great as always with Pixar. I mean, they are wonderful, and I think it's a shame they didn't have more faith in Turning Red or Luca or Soul or any of those films, as opposed to putting Lightyear in instead. I think it's a real shame.
I mean, I gave it a mild recommendation, but I have to say it's not a film I've thought about once since I saw it. I have not had a desire to see it again, which is weird for Pixar. But what they should have done, in my opinion, is they should have had a little featurette with the Buzz Lightyear that we know and love, with Tim Allen's voice explaining everything that's going on, kind of like what they did for the very first teaser for Zootopia, where they had Nick Wilde explaining what anthropomorphic meant and explaining what Zootopia is, and there was just like this little teaser that they did. I think that would have gone a long way to kind of making people, oh, okay, I get it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I think if it had just been Joe Space Adventure, I would have liked it, I think, better, because I wouldn't be so distracted by all the Toy Story stuff.
Yes, exactly. It's you're right though. It's such a weird project. I just hope we don't have one with Woody now. You know, like a Western where Woody's
Woody's Roundup,
some
the
outlaws.
movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe
leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Yeah, please no. It's just weird when you have it's just weird when you have two different versions of a beloved character. It's kind of like what they did in a short with Runaway Brain for Mickey, which is a horror short. And Mickey's like a zombie. It's like zombie Mickey. And that's kind of upsetting to see, but it's just a short. So it's like, okay, it's not a 2.5 hour movie. All right. So then we have at number 6, we have Elvis. I didn't have that on my list at all. So that was an epic fail. And then Joe, you had it at 9, and Dan, you had it at 8.
Yeah.
So what did we think of Elvis? I really enjoyed it. It has its flaws. I mean, Tom Hanks' character was weird. But overall, I was kind of dazzled by it. I thought the performance was so great. This music, I'm a huge sucker for a musical of any kind. So the musical sequences were so great, and I think they could have honestly ended it at the end of the special. I don't think they needed to tell his whole life. I think they just, when he has the breakout with the this special, and he does the big song for supporting the civil rights movement, everything like that would have been such a triumphant, I think, spot to end the movie. But I still, overall, I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I think it was probably my highlight of the summer, to be perfectly honest. I gave it the full 5 stars, and I'm so glad I waited out to go see it on the big screen, and I'm so glad it stayed in cinemas for as long as it did, so I could see it on the big screen, because I certainly don't think it would have played for a first-time watch as well on my television. And yeah, I completely dazzled by it. I was really worried about the length of it and worried that it would sag and drag a little bit in the middle, but I never at one point felt bored or fed up, or that, check my watch or anything like that. I just thought the pacing was terrific. Performances were outstanding. Austin Butler's great Elvis. Tom Hanks, yes, very, very weird, but sort of necessary. I sort of saw it as a horror film in that way, because his character, he's like he is. Forget Ethan Hawke. I mean, Tom Hanks as the colonel is absolutely the general is absolutely terrifying.
But they shouldn't have had him do that accent. It was just weird, because the real guy in real life didn't even have that accent.
So that was a choice. I mean, that was a heck of a choice for Tom Hanks in that case, or Baz Luhrmann. But Yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. A chap behind me clapped at the end of it.
Wow.
Absolutely
Mhm.
loved it, and it was just a great atmosphere in the screen, and I think everybody was really vibing with it. And yeah, I can see it like getting a lot of play. Like we have a lot of outdoor, I know you have the drive-ins with you. We have a lot in the summer, especially a lot of outdoor cinema screenings, and they usually tend to go for films like this year, for example, they're doing Rocket Man, they're doing Spielberg's West Side Story. I can totally see next year Elvis being that film which is played across all these screens. So I think it's got legs, and I think people will be talking about it for a long time.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got that Baz Luhrmann dazzle to it. Its pacing is excellent. It's beautifully shot, and it has a real kind of speed and tempo to it. And I disagree, Rachel. I found Tom Hanks excellent, and like Joe said, very kind of intriguing and disturbing. Like at points I was siding with him, and at points I was just detested him, and I was disgusted by him. It was a very strange relationship I had with him through the film. But I thought he was very well written, and I think Aidan Butler is excellent. I think he will receive a lot of the Oscar praise. I think hands down he will be nominated for Best Actor. The film is very, very long. The film is almost 3 hours, and I think they could have cut bits down. And I'm surprised to see that a lot of Elvis fans still complained that they didn't cover his life in as much detail as they wanted. Like, how long do you want it to be? 5 hours, 6 hours? But you're right. I think it focuses on the highlights, on kind of the big points of his life, which is smart, because you haven't got time to do everything.
I just wish that more music biopics would take the walk the line approach, where they didn't try to tell the entire Johnny Cash story. They just told this one little part of his playing it, getting up to him playing at Folsom Prison, and then that's when they stopped it. And I feel like that could have been the same thing with stopping at the special.
Yeah, Walk the Line is great because it is essentially a romantic. It's a romantic drama, which happens to also tell the story of Johnny Cash. And you're absolutely right. I love how it sort of zones in onto one particular aspect. It covers a lot of themes of through his life, but does cover sort of that one aspect about his relationship with his wife. So yeah, that could have been interesting as well. Absolutely, if maybe they had picked that one, if they're making it about Tom Hanks and Elvis, then they could have definitely ended where you suggested. I think that would have cut about 20 minutes off for you, Dan. You'd have been happy with that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely would have been clapping at that. Be like, I would have done a can. I would have just stood and clapped for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, number 5, and I think this is a big surprise, is Thor: Love and Thunder. It was number 5 for the. I mean, there were a big jump between Elvis and this, though. They made $336 million domestic. But I think everybody thought it was going to make more than that. I mean, I had it at number 2. Dan, you had it at 1. And Joe, you had it at 3.
Yeah.
Oh,
we all had it top three,
Yeah. I was so naive. I was so optimistic. I looked at Doctor Strange 2 and I said, that's okay, but leave it to Thor. He'll reach 1 billion. I remember, I think I said that. I said, forget Top Gun. I said, Thor is going to reach 1 billion. And for some reason, I genuinely think it's just the film. I don't think anybody loved Thor: Love and Thunder. I don't think even the most enthusiastic Thor fans loved it, and I certainly didn't. I'm gonna say it's the weakest of the series, and I don't even like Thor 1 and 2 that much. I mean, Ragnarok was such a difficult film to try and top, because I think it had the balance. You had, Taika Waititi. It was his first Marvel film. He brought this energy, this exuberance, this color, this this kind of high energy style of filmmaking that Thor franchise has not seen before. It's very different to the Kenneth Branagh films. And then in this film, he's just went 100% on everything. He just went way over the top. And Joe and I have spoken about this, how we feel like he was given too much control. Marvel gave him too much freedom, because there were just certain jokes and gags in this film that are just completely like off the cuff, like not funny at all. There's a whole gag involving goats, that
I was just
I
gonna say
believe
that.
Too much.
I believe was a meme, as the kids call it. But it just kept repeating over and over again. I thought what they're doing with Thor's character is just like they're trying to demasculate him as much as they can. And I get it, he's been in 4 films. We need to make way for someone else, but just his role in this is just. I mean, there was a point in time where Thor used to be kind of this strong, powerful character, this Marvel hero, and he's a joke here. He's a joke. He spends time kitchen cooking. He spends time, having his clothes ripped off him. I think the film does everything it can to kind of really take him as a joke. I thought Natalie Portman was fantastic in this. I think her plot line, I'm not going to spoil it because I'm sure people still haven't seen it, but her subplot is the best thing about the film. It's a real kind of emotional undercore to the film. I thought Christian Bale was good as the villain. His motives were very unclear to me. I don't know what he wanted to achieve. But my favorite thing with the children in the film, the children that are obviously that Christian Bale's character kidnaps, and they were hilarious, and I was laughing out loud, and I don't think I was supposed to. But yeah, I just thought this was a very kind of confused mess, to be honest. I was really disappointed in it because I was really excited for it. And I think visually, yes, it's stunning. It kind of, like I said, there are elements of Guardians of the Galaxy here. I just don't know what they want to do with Thor as a character, moving on into the MCU. But yeah.
What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was just Taika Waititi having, as you said, Dan, too much control and believing his own hype a little bit as well, and thinking, oh, everyone raved about Ragnarok, so I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing, and yeah, totally believing his own hype, and it was just tonally all over the place. The fact that you've got this really sensitive storyline with Natalie Portman, and then in the next scene, as you said, Dan, the goats. And those goats just kept on reappearing, and like, okay, maybe it was chucklesome the first time, but like after like the 6th time this joke was made with the goats, I was like, please, like, this is at least move on now. This is getting to the climax. This is getting to the point of the final showdown, and you're still making jokes about the goat. And I just think tonally it was all over the place. I'm with you. I really enjoyed Christian Bale's villain, actually, which I know Marvel sometimes have issues with the villains. I thought he was like a creepy child catcher type character, and I would have loved to have seen more of him, if anything. But yeah, it was certainly all over the place. It's probably the weakest, I'd probably say, Marvel film, certainly of this current phase, I would say, and probably one of the weakest ones I've seen in quite some time. It's interesting that it hasn't done well. There's a lot of stuff going on around at the moment on the internet about Marvel fatigue and people being fed up of Marvel, and maybe the fact that now you have more Marvel than ever with all these Disney Plus shows. Maybe people have grown a bit tired of it, and maybe people are like, well, I'll catch it when it's out. I'm just a bit tired of Marvel at the moment. So yeah, very interesting that we all had it top 3 essentially, and in every other year, in any other sort of Marvel movie, I would probably be expecting that. So it's really interesting that it hasn't even gotten anywhere near the top 3, really.
Yeah, I mean, I did give it a mild recommendation. I gave it a 6 out of 10, which is my like cut of, because 5 is what I do is rotten. So it barely made the cut. But I did like Doctor Strange better. I thought my biggest problem with Thor Love and Thunder was I thought the whole segment with Zeus was really boring. I was struggling to stay awake, to be honest.
Yes.
It was such a waste of Russell Crowe. I just thought that whole part was bland. I really liked everything with, like you said, the Kid Army was super fun. I liked everything with Natalie Portman. That was fun. I like the whole concept of Christian Bale's villain, the idea that like what happens when we feel like God has abandoned us, and how do we deal with that? And so that was a pretty interesting concept for a movie like Thor: Love and Thunder to bring up. I'm not sure they dealt with it as well as they could, but it just gave kind of something to ponder. I love Ragnarok. So it was definitely disappointing as a follow-up to that. But it had just enough for me to, I guess, give it a mild recommendation. But yeah, I do prefer Doctor Strange because that was just, I was never bored in Multiverse of Madness like I was in that Zeus section.
Yeah, absolutely. And it pushed the boat out a bit more. I feel like with Thor and Love and Thunder, it didn't really do anything new, anything particularly original. And you're right, the whole character of Thor as well is a really interesting development since we first saw him. This stoic Shakespearean Kenneth Branagh directed movie to him now being this goofy sort of Star-Lord type character who just and yeah, it's really strange how he's developed to be the sort of comic relief, whereas we have been used to him being a central sort of stoic character. So
well, and you do feel the loss of Loki. I think you need to have Loki in a Thor movie. You just need that dynamic between the two of them. Because even Thor: The Dark World, I can't hate it like other people hate it. It's not great by any means, and I didn't go fresh on it, but that dynamic between Thor and Loki is still there, and that's solid.
Yeah, no, 100. Hopefully, the next time we see Thor, he will have Loki with him. I hope so. I hope in Loki series 2, I think, is out next year, and I'm hoping we'll start to see some signs of the two reuniting, because that will be great.
I mean, I guess people for a long time complained that Marvel was too bland, too predictable, and know exactly what it's going to be. But now in series 4, they've definitely taken a lot more risks. But now people don't like that because it's not, it's kind of messy. But so it's an interesting thing. I think I have enjoyed most of stage 4, phase 4. I didn't love Eternals. That wasn't for me. I didn't love Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It had moments, but it wasn't for me. But for the most part, I've liked everything else, at least on some level. And I really loved Loki. I thought that was super fun. That was my favorite of the shows, but I liked Miss Marvel. I thought that was charming.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, Ms. Marvel's probably been my favorite thing they've done in phase 4 so far. But yeah, and we said on our show when we were reviewing Doctor Strange, I think they are definitely at that point now where they have got to get that balance right. We need to see new stuff from them, and we need to see them exploring different genres like horror, which Doctor Strange almost certainly dives into. But yeah, it's about getting that balance right, and I think with this Thor, it just leaned too heavily into the comedy, and I just wish they'd pulled it back a little bit, especially with Portman's story, just to ground it a little bit more and to say, okay, we've had the fun, let's get to the heart now, and it would have made the ending all that more impactful. But as it stood, I was kind of like, well, that's something which is really sad, but I don't really feel sad because I've just been chuckling at some goats 5 minutes ago. So yeah, really weird.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Well, number 4 was one of my most anticipated. No, it wasn't. It's Minions: The Rise of Gru. And here's the shocker. I actually went fresh on this.
Oh, wow.
No.
My dreams have come true.
I think this is the best Despicable Me sequel.
Wow.
I would completely agree. And if you can remember, Rachel, neither of us were excited for this at all. And I expressed my detest of Minions, and I said I definitely was not going to watch it. I was there opening night, of course, because I have no life. I was there, and you're completely right. I've not seen the first Minions. I don't really want to. This film wasn't great. Yeah, this one wasn't great enough for me to go back and rush and watch the first one, but I thought it was fine. I thought it was a great voice cast. The pacing was fab, short runtime, and I really enjoyed the adventure and the journey the Minions went on. I thought it was very educational. No, not really, but I mean, and there's some great sequences here. They're involving them on the plane, which you saw in the trailer. Like I said, it's short, it's snappy, it keeps the pace going. I mean, I was never not engaged with it. I enjoyed it. I mean, will I watch it again? Probably not. But I think it's performed really well. It's hit the target audience, which is young children. This and Super Pets have been kind of the only animated films out this summer. And this is, like I said, I knew this would do well. And yeah, I think Universal, they are going to make more sequels to this, hands down. And yeah, I thought it was fine. I liked it.
Well, and Super Pets did not make the top 10.
No,
it, where is it on this list? 12. It's 12. So you and Dan, you and I had that on our list. I had it at 8, and you had it at 6. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm really simple when it comes to comedies. If I'm laughing, it does its job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that. If it makes me laugh, then it's a success. And I was laughing throughout this whole movie. I thought the sequence on the plane was the funniest sequence we've ever had in Despicable Me. It was peak Minions.
Put it on the poster.
It's true.
Yeah.
Put it on the poster.
It was funny.
It was the creme de la creme. It was the pièce de résistance.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. The thing about the Minions is that at their best, they have sort of a silent movie kind of feel to them, like a Chaplin-esque type of humor to them. And that's what you got so well in that plane sequence. That's what they kind of delivered, is that kind of over the top silent movie type of slapstick comedy.
Yeah. No, that's when they do it best. And I mean, I don't have a lot to say here. I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. I definitely think it benefited with the Gru moments. For me, that's what Despicable Me and the Minions movies should be about Gru and the family. So I liked that Gru had some sort of input in this one, and it wasn't just around the Minions. And I liked how it sort of developed the relationship between the two. But yeah, I thought it was fine, colorful, breezy, and yeah, like I said, we'll probably see another in literally about two years. But this one had been delayed by quite a lot, hadn't it? It was like made 3 years ago, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did my first trailer reaction in 2019.
There we go. So that's crazy. So they might already have another one made by now. Who knows?
Yeah.
They wore me down.
Yeah, have another one in the oven.
Yeah.
And as usual with Illumination, they spent big money on the soundtrack. There were so many songs.
Yes, that always helps.
Yeah, they're evil geniuses. And it was so funny. There was someone that was complaining about like them making the villains woke in Minions, Rise of Gru, and I'm like, they're all villains. That's the whole point.
Yeah, I couldn't see that at all in the film. I mean, I think people love the term woke, don't they? I mean, woke is broke. Okay, we should stop using it because people use it for everything, and I don't even know what it means anymore. I mean, there are genuine things that are very woke and in terms of like very extreme on one side. But I mean, if you just keep saying everything is woke, it loses isn't it? But yeah,
Chicken
it's-
Little.
Very true.
Oh. All right. Yes. So I had that at 5 Minions, and Dan, you had it at 3, and Joe, you had it at 7.
Right. Okay.
So it
okay.
ended up, and I certainly didn't expect this whole suit thing. You know, they were
I know.
doing.
What
was
was
weird.
that all about? That was so strange. That
Yeah,
was one of the
I-
weirdest things to come out of this.
I believe it's on an app called TikTok.
Yeah,
I've never heard
TikTok.
of it before.
It's bizarre.
Don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
number 3 was Jurassic World Dominion. I had this at number 1. The Twitter people convinced me to move it up to number 1.
Don't listen to them.
Yes,
I know,
should've
yeah.
kept it
What
at
do
3.
they know? The Twitter people. What do they
Yeah.
know? Nothing.
And then you both had it at 2.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this movie was not good. It was it was so long, and it boggles my mind. You have the chance to have a movie about dinosaurs in the real world that could have been fun, and you spend about 80% of your movie in some research facility studying locusts. What? I was just baffled. I'm like, what? Like, the whole movie should have been the scenes in Malta. That was fun. The rest of it, and Bryce Dallas Howard's character, I just hate her character
yeah.
so much.
100%. Yeah.
It was so
I
bad.
I have a big debate about her with my girlfriend because she hates her in the first one, but likes her progressively more. I'm the opposite. I loved her in the first Jurassic World because she played this really catty, like quite snarky businesswoman who hated everybody and just cared about the money, and she played that really well. And then the second film, she joins a charity organization who wants to help the welfare of the dinosaurs. It's just complete opposite. And then in this film, she gets given so much screen time. Like Chris Pratt, you don't see Chris Pratt at all. He might as well be a tree in the forest because you just don't see him anywhere. He's in so much, but I do like her a bit more than you, I think. But you're right. I think I find her exhausting to watch.
But the
Like,
first movie, she's so stupid. It makes me crazy. I mean, if she said asset one more time, I think I would scream. And just the fact that she doesn't just immediately evacuate the island is insane. That she's like, oh no, we don't need to do that yet. And you've got dinosaurs roaming, including flying dinosaurs. It's crazy. And the fact that like not everybody is at least indoors is ridiculous. And they're all outside. But in this, I just couldn't believe it. They have such an opportunity to make a fun movie with dinosaurs in the real world. And they went with locusts for like an hour.
I know. I felt bad for the legacy characters. I mean, to bring them back. And then you can imagine that table read or that first initial meeting where they go, welcome back to Jurassic Park, guys. And they're like really excited. And they're like, okay, so what are we doing this time around? Are we facing an Indominus? No. You're going to be dealing with locusts. We brought you back after all these years to deal with locusts. And those scenes where the Sam Neill and Laura Dern meet for the first time in like years, and they're talking about locusts and like the impact it'll have on farming. You can you feel the pain, you can feel the boredom, and you can just feel how dense that room was when they shot that scene. It's just got no energy whatsoever. And you're right, the end of the last one set up this great premise where it was going to be like, we are getting an actual Jurassic World where the dinosaurs are roaming free. And then it's like they just lost confidence in the idea. They lost faith in it. So like, okay, well, we definitely have a little bit of this, but we do need to get it back to I mean, I thought that's why they blew up the island in the last film, right? So that they could avoid this happening again. But we just end up on another island in a compound with dinosaurs running loose again. And the Malta stuff is fantastic. And to be honest, I gave it a 3 out of 5, which is, very middle of the road. And I think without that Malta sequence, it probably would have been less, because I think that is such a great set piece. And I did see it twice because I took my nephew to see it the second time. And that is just such a perfectly executed set piece, how they build it. And when Chris Pratt's on the bike and the plane's about to take off, I just think that's a terrific sequence. So we needed more of that, and I think it would have been something special. But in the end, you're absolutely right. They just didn't have the faith in themselves, and we just got a very generic, back to basics, same as any other Jurassic Park film we've seen.
And boy, did they get it wrong when they bring back Dr. Dodson, and they think this is going to be like the fans are going to be like, ooh, like what? Nobody cares about him. What do they think? They really think he's got like the shaving cream can, and they're just like, no.
Yeah, well, that was such a bizarre like route to go down to with as a central villain. And I've been watching the Netflix animated show as well, the Camp Cretaceous show, and that is fantastic actually. And I sort of wish maybe they turned that into a film of like these group of kids left on the island when Jurassic World happened, and them trying to survive. I mean, that's quite a cool concept, but in the most recent series, they brought back Dodgson again, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, let it go. The guy from the first film for 5 minutes.
and having Sattler and Grant have this romance or whatever just felt so cringe. I was just like, oh. Yeah. I said in my review, I said that, of course, it's fun for me to see Dr. Sattler, Grant, and Malcolm back, but I would honestly rather see an interview of them talking about the original film than what we get here.
Yeah. Well, I think the moral of the story here is, guys, nothing says fun like industrial farming and climate change.
That's right.
No, nothing gets bums on seats like industrial farming.
Yeah, research grants.
I was laughing so much. There were some teenagers in my screening, and they were like, "Oh my gosh!" They actually walked out in the first half an hour, which I think is terrible because there are some good things here. But you're right, that first act is so sluggish and so dull, and you're right, so unnecessary. That whole plot line involving the locusts. Very strange, and I cannot believe they've released an extended cut with an extra 14 minutes. We need to take 40 minutes off it. What is going on?
Well, Trevorrow, he's like, friends don't let friends watch the theatrical cut, and I was like, I said, well, I guess, Colin, we're not really friends.
Yeah, we're not friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like it's more dinosaurs, but it's like, is it really? I've read a description of all the added material.
It could be more locusts, though, and we don't want that. We don't want that.
Well, the thing is, the added footage is footage we've already seen. I mean, my nephew, he adores the Jurassic franchise. He knows everything it is about it, and I think the added footage is literally the prelude which you've already seen in IMAX theaters, like the original trailer, which has like goes back 65 million years or whatever, and then like a short film which was released as well. And
that was good, like the whole thing with the drive-in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's all they're adding. So we've seen it before anyway. So I don't buy the whole. Yeah, friends don't go watch the.
It was bad. Get a grip. It was really bad. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, wow, that's so bad. The whole Jurassic Park franchise to me has been a huge disappointment. The original movie changed my life. It made me fall in love with movies. Absolutely adore it. And then the first sequel came out, and I was so disappointed at the time. Woo! and they always somehow manage to get me excited, and they always disappoint me. But number 2 was Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. We already talked a bit about that. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I thought that Wanda is compelling, and people complaining about it doesn't really make sense to me. To me, this was the logical next step from her character in WandaVision. So yeah, I didn't really understand those complaints. They could have had more of the multiverse. That would have been fun, but the stuff we got, I enjoyed. So I don't know. I had a good time with it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It is a great extension, I think, of WandaVision. I really loved the marketing behind this, and I have to say it surprised me a lot, this film, because I was not expecting, with no spoilers, but I was not expecting the central villain to be the central villain, if that makes sense. I thought that was really clever how they did that and kept that secret and basically marketed it as one thing, and then going in, it was something completely different. I loved the scares. I loved, again, that it was, as I said earlier on, dipping its toes into stuff that we haven't really seen Marvel tackle previously. So the horror genre, and Sam Raimi is fantastic for that. And yeah, I thought it was just like that sequence where they sort of fighting, the two variants of fighting through music and like firing like
that was fun.
notes and stuff. I just thought that was really cool and really inventive, and probably more inventive than anything Thor Love and Thunder had in its entire runtime. So I loved that they were pushing the boat and trying new things. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was I mean, I didn't love it, but I think out of all the Phase 4 films, it's the most ambitious. Having Sam Raimi back, allowing him to put his horror spin on it was really clever. It's quite a violent Marvel film. I think it's the most violent, the most gory. I'm really surprised here in the UK it got a 12A rating, because there's one sequence in particular with Wanda. And there are various cameos in that scene. I'm not going to spoil it still, but yeah, really gruesome at points. But I thought I disagree about the whole multiverse. I think the MCU are really throwing their eggs in one basket and putting a lot into the multiverse. For me, I was like, this is getting way too complex. I think you're losing the heart of what the first Doctor Strange was about, which I adore. I think the first Doctor Strange is great. But I think visually it's very interesting. Some great set pieces. Joe's right. I did not expect Wanda to be the main villain in the film. Kind of gave that away. I'm sorry.
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert. I was being so good, haven't I? And I've just let it rip.
Well, I think it's clear from the ending of WandaVision, from the post-credit scene, that's what's going to happen. That's why I didn't understand. I'm like, did people not watch the post-credit scene in WandaVision? Because it was clear that what she was doing. She was reading the whatever it's called, that book, and wants revenge. The only thing I was surprised that we didn't see any White Vision.
Yes, yeah, that was strange. They're sort of keeping him to one side for now. It'd be interesting to see how they integrate him back into the fold, really. But yeah, that was a bit strange.
I think the best of Phase 4 is Shang-Chi and WandaVision.
Yeah.
And Loki. Those are, I think.
And No Way Home. I did love No Way Home.
Oh, yeah.
I like No Way Home.
That was good too.
So that's the thing. There has been a lot of good. But Eternals I thought was all right, actually. But yeah, I think they just, as they start to bring in, new characters and new ideas, it is, I think, upsetting a few of the fans, unfortunately. But yeah, Shang-Chi's been great, and I hope they announce a sequel soon.
So good. All right, number one, we talked about it a little bit, of course, was I forgot to say, so Dan, you didn't have Doctor Strange in your top 10 because you didn't think it was a summer release. No,
but I was wrong, obviously.
Standing up on principle there. Joe, you had it at 4. And I had it at 3.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Very close, yeah.
So then, so Top Gun Maverick, of course, number 1, unbelievable. It ended up being so good. I've seen it 3 times.
Wow.
My dad, who never goes to the movies ever, saw it and liked it. And tweeted me, and texted me that he liked it. I was like, wow. He hasn't been to a movie in the movie theaters since we went and saw Les Mis in 2012. So
wow.
He never goes to the movies.
That is incredible.
And it was just super well done, very crowd pleasing, very entertaining. I had very few flaws with it. It was just well done.
Yeah, I absolutely adored it and did not expect to. 14 weeks in the box office. It's grossed well over $1 billion worldwide, which we didn't think was going to happen so soon after No Way Home. And you're right. I think it's really united people to come to the movie theater from different kinds of audiences. It's managed to appeal to everybody. And I think the main reason why, and Joe and I have spoken about this quite a lot, is that it's a film that isn't political. It isn't making a big statement. It's a film that is just telling a story, and a kind of classic storytelling that you would find at the 90s and early 2000s, which I feel like is missing from Hollywood. I feel like Hollywood nowadays wants to lecture us and wants to kind of feed agendas and politics a lot of the time. Disney's very guilty of that, I found, in the last couple of films they've done. And this film is just, it's a great story. It's thrilling, it's exciting, it's exhilarating. I'm really glad they delayed it so long. I bet at a point Paramount were like, come on, Tom, let's just put it on streaming. And I'm so glad, because you have to see it in the biggest screen. You have to see it in IMAX, 4DX, however you watch it. It deserves to be seen on the big screen. And I think it's had so much longevity. I mean, every week it seems to be like at number 5 or number 4, and it just seems to be so consistent, its numbers. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy about it. I mean, I think it will stay at number 1 for the rest of the year. Unless maybe Black Adam or Avatar 2 comes along. But yeah, I'm really happy.
Yeah, I saw it twice in the IMAX, and then I actually saw it at the drive-in here, and it was a perfect movie to see at the drive-in, because you want really simple movies at the drive-in, because you don't always get, the audio isn't always perfect. And so it's a perfect movie, especially since I've seen it twice already when I saw it at the drive-in. But yeah, it was so entertaining. And I mean, how brilliant just to be like, we're just going to blow up the Death Star once again.
Yeah.
That's what they did. And it worked.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just go back to the blueprint of blowing up the Death Star and see what happens. So 100% that's it. But yeah, I loved it. And I don't like the first Top Gun. I really don't like the first Top Gun. And I really, really enjoyed this. And I think I love Tom Cruise. I know people get wrapped up in his beliefs and so on and so forth. But I think, look, this is an actor who's like a Goliath within the industry, who has the clout to tell these studios like Paramount, no, this needs to be, for the theatrical experience, we're going to hang fire. And if you take it out of cinemas and put it on streaming too soon, I will sue you. He is that type of actor who has that clout. I don't think there's anybody else working today quite like Tom Cruise. And I think the last Mission Impossible, Fallout, again, that had such great buzz. That was in cinemas. That seemed to play for weeks and weeks and weeks. That nearly made $1 billion. And I can just see this happening. I think Tom Cruise has created a brand around himself now of an actor who is all about cinema, all about the big screen experience. So when people see a new Tom Cruise film, like Mission Impossible or a Top Gun, they know that they're going to get a fantastic theatrical experience. And I think it's been really weird seeing people like on my Facebook, like you were saying, Rachel, I had a lady who I worked with previously years ago, and she posted saying she's been with her partner for about 6 years. They've never been to the cinema, and they made their first cinema trip to see Top Gun Maverick. It's a really weird dynamic of all these people, even people who don't love cinema. There's something about Maverick which is pulling them to it. So I think it's magical, and I think it's great that it's done so well, and it's bringing people to audiences, to cinemas, and they're capitalizing on it as well, really well. They're doing currently, I think, on weekends at our Cineworlds, double bills with Top Gun straight into Top Gun Maverick. So that's obviously getting the box office up as well. Just a wonderful, wonderful experience on the big screen, and I can't wait to see Mission Impossible now next year and see how that does, if it'll be a similar situation, because I can just see it getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and you called it. You had it at number 1 in the predictions.
Yeah,
bravo.
It was
but
good.
that again, it was just the word of mouth thing, because around that time was literally just as the film was screening for critics and certain audiences in previews, and the word of mouth was just so strong about it. And I just had a feeling, because I just think that's so important these days. It's if somebody goes, if on Twitter you see people tweeting about this film and it's trending, or people go over to other people, I saw this film, I loved it. It gets people to cinemas. And I think people have also, I do think there's a little bit of fatigue with superhero movies. Some people now, they're like, where do I start? They see Thor, Love and Thunder, and they're like, oh, I've got to watch 80 other films before I can watch this. And I think it's a bit overwhelming. So like you absolutely right. This is a simple, straightforward blockbuster, and they don't even have to have seen the first film to get it, really. And I think that's part of its appeal as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you had it at 5. I had it at 4.
So I'm gonna do my homework next summer. If we ever do this again, which I hope we do, because it's been an absolute blast. So thank you, Rachel. I'm gonna really put my Joe hat on, and I'm gonna be a good student. I'm gonna study all year. I'm gonna look at the figures and the box office numbers, and I'm gonna do better. And I'm not going to trust Thor again.
Yeah.
No, maybe just take a punt now and say next year's will be Mission Impossible. Do that. Maybe the Tom Cruise effect. Just say right now, next year's highest grossing summer movie.
Next year's highest grossing film would be Woody's Roundup.
Well, I know I already mentioned Marcel the Shell, but do we have any other movies that didn't make the top 10 that we enjoyed this summer? I know one for me is The Phantom of the Open. This was charming movie about the world's worst golfer. I also really loved The Outfit. Such a well done script. I'm normally not a big mafia person, but Johnny Flynn, he's the best.
Johnny Flynn, eh? Wow.
Yes. I also really enjoyed Chip and Dale. I didn't think I would, but I thought it was hilarious and very clever. 13 Lives, I think, is very underrated. They did a great job. The documentary is better, but still, Ron Howard did a good job, I think. I actually really enjoyed the Bob's Burger movie. I didn't think I would because I'm not that big a fan of the show, but I liked it. The new Father of the Bride movie was surprisingly good and well done. I love that series. And then the last one I will mention is Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, which is so charming that I think it's the kind of movie that I would take my mother to. She would like it. It's so cute.
We haven't got that yet. That's next month, I think, for us. So very excited about that.
And if you haven't had a chance to see RRR, that's also so good.
Yes, it's on Netflix. So I need to find the spare 3 hours to watch it and give it the full attention it deserves, I think. But I've heard great things. But a couple of mine, Prey on Disney Plus, that was terrific. I mean, again, talking about sort of, sequels for films made years ago, I think it was an astounding sequel and probably the best since the original film. I also really liked the Bob's Burgers movie, really enjoyed that. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, again, absolutely loved that. I mean, again, Who Framed Roger Rabbit for the modern day. I'm disappointed a little bit that they put it on Disney Plus. I would have loved to have seen that in the cinema. And I think that's about it, to be honest. Everything else I've sort of found very middle of the road, to be honest with you. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, same. Bob's Burgers was the cinematic highlight of my year. No, just kidding. No, I like Bob's Burgers. Chip and Dale wasn't keen on. What else was out this year? What else did I like? I really, really enjoyed Prey as well. So some good streaming this year. Really good, especially in the summer season. But no, Lightyear, 4th time is happening. Okay. So that was me.
Well, this was so much fun. Thank you so much. I know this is a long podcast, but I really enjoyed it. And thanks so much for coming and talking about the summer movie season. If you're all listening, let us know what your predictions were, what you think of the movies, if you got to see them. And so where can people find your podcast and everything?
I think this is my job now. So
we are.
Yes. I don't even have an auto cue. I can just recite it off memory. So we are the Dan and Joe Film Show. You can catch us. You can find us on Facebook online under the Dan and Joe Film Show. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at DJ Film Show. That's at DJ Film Show. You can also catch all of our old episodes on Mixcloud, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Yeah.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you check out the Hallmarkies podcast for all things rom-com and holiday. And if you are listening to this episode on iTunes and to Dan and Joe's podcast, leave us all your 5-star reviews. We really appreciate it. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store. Check out that. And thanks so much to both of you. And we will talk to you all next year for the next summer box office.
Look forward to it. Brilliant. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.